solving for x. So I am going to underline what I'm solving for. So basically, I need to move everything else over to the right-hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to rewrite this and show you what I am going to do in terms of moving things. The very first thing that a lot of you do is you say, I'm going to move that 15 over. So I move the 15 over. 15 minus 15 gives me 0. And on the right-hand side, I have 120. And I'm basically going to bring down the x minus 3y. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are solving for x. So I need to get x by itself. And when I get x by itself, that means I need to move this 3y over. In order for me to move the 3y, I am going to add 3y to both sides. And this is the error that I saw many of you do. Many of you decided that, 3y and 120 go together. And I'm here to tell you that no, it is not. You cannot put 3y and 120 together. You just can't do it. Because you've got numbers and you have 3y. So what this means is I'm simply going to tell you that x is equal to 120 plus 3y. And I have now solved for x. I have no idea what x is. I have no idea what the value of x is other than that x can be represented by x 120 plus 3y. All right, moving on. The second thing that you needed to do in this very same equation, look at same equation. This time, instead of solving for x, we're solving for y. So I saw a lot of different things on NearPod. So basically, I am going to underline what it is I need to solve for. I need to get y by itself. So I'm going to do the exact same thing that you did in the previous equation, and I am going to subtract 15 from both sides. When I subtract 15 from both sides, on the right, I still have 120. And you're going to notice those 15 go away. And I'm left with x minus 3y is equal to 120. Notice I need to solve for y. Well, right now, I need to move this x over. In order for me to move the x, I need to subtract x and subtract x from both sides. Because if I have x and I take x away, it becomes 0. And I am now left with, on the left-hand side, I'm simply going to bring down that minus 3y and is equal to 120 minus x. That's all I've done. So now I need you all to remember that when I have a variable and a number next to each other, this means -3 times y. I am not adding -3 to both sides, which I saw some of you do. Some of you said, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. It's like, no, I cannot add. This is a multiplication problem. -3y is equal to 120 minus x. So basically, in order for you to be able to undo multiplication, undo it, meaning get rid of that -3y, I have to divide both sides by -3. Divide. This fraction bar, ladies and gentlemen, means to divide. So when I divide both sides, sorry, there was somebody in the waiting room, so I needed to let them in. So when I divide both sides by -3 divided by -3, if you plug it into a calculator, it's simply going to be 1y. And notice I didn't put 1 in front of the y. I don't have to, because that tells me I have 1y is equal to, and now if I did the -3, if I divided the left side by -3, I have got to do the right side by -3, because remember the acceptable moves, the balance that goes on. And I'm going to tell you, if you left this like this, 120 minus x divided by -3, I have no issue with that. This is acceptable, totally acceptable. However, many of you could have easily divided 120 by -3, totally fine, which you would have gotten as -40. Okay? Yes?
What if you don't know how to divide and stuff like that? Should we just should I just use a calculator?
Yes, absolutely. This is not a lesson in arithmetic. This is a lesson in manipulating equations. So please, please, please use a calculator. Okay? And I'm going to tell you all to leave it like this. If you took it and said 120 divided by -3 is -40, fine. I'm good with that. If you did this, y is equal to -40. And what else do we know? We also know that -3 divided by -x is plus 1/3 x. Totally okay. Or x divided by 3. Totally okay. But this is why I'm okay with it looking like that. All right, moving on. The next slide shows you, this was an equation that had to do with the word problem about almonds and raisins. And basically, almonds and raisins were part of this problem, and you were given an equation. It said 5.20a plus 2.75r is equal to 11.70. Basically, what this was somebody went to the store and bought almonds and raisins, and they spent a total of $11.70. And it asked you in the problem to solve for A and then explain what A meant. So what I did here on the slide was I wrote down everything that you were given in the problem. You were told in the problem that A was pounds of almonds. You were told that R represented pounds of raisins. You were also told that the raisins were $2.75 a pound. And you were also told that almonds were $5.20 a pound. So basically, when I look at that problem, that equation up there, 5.20 is the price per pound of almonds. 2.75 is the price per pound of raisins. And 11.70 was the total. So we're basically supposed to now solve for A. Solve for A. Just get the value of A all by itself on the left-hand side. That's what we need to do. Get it to stand all by itself. So basically, this is what you would do. I'm going to rewrite the problem, and I'd like to make sure that you rewrite it too. And because I've got everything written here, so I need space to work, I'm going to go 5.20a plus 2.75r is equal to 1170. Again, I'm solving for A. I am going to underline this because that's what I need to get by itself. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move that 275R over to the right. Notice I subtracted it. Because right now I'm adding, in order for make that 0 for it to go away, I subtract it. Draw my line, bring everything down. 520A is equal to 1170 minus 2.75R. Now remember, I need to get A all by itself. As I told you earlier, this 520 is being multiplied. So if I'm multiplying it, how do I undo multiplication? I divide. That means I'm going to divide everything, every single thing. Notice every single thing got divided by 5.20. 520 divided by 520 simply gives me A. And now to Neve's point, she said, well, gosh, I can't divide 11. I can't personally, Mrs. Hannaford can't take 11.70 and divide it by 520. I'm using a calculator. So I've got my calculator here and I'm simply going to divide 1170 divided by 5.20. And what did I get? I got 2.25 minus, and then I'm going to take 2.75 and divide it by 5.20. And what do I get? Ooh, I got a whole bunch of numbers. Let me make sure I got that right. 2.75 divided by 5.2. I got 0.5288. So I'm just going to round it and go 0.529R. Okay, that's what I did. Now, it says, here's A. There it is right there. I have no idea what the value is, meaning I didn't get a number for it. All I did was I know that A represents that. So what the heck, if I look at back at my question, it says solve for A, and then what does it mean? It means basically that if I'm going to solve for A, I want to know how many pounds of almonds did I buy. I know that 520 is the price, but 520 times how many did I buy? I have no idea. So if I needed to figure that out, that's what I would solve for. I can't combine 2.25 and 0.529R. These are not the same. This and this are not the same, ladies and gentlemen. How do I know that? Because this has got an R attached to it. Okay? Moving on. Next problem. I think this was towards the end of the NearPod lesson. I'm not quite sure. And if you didn't finish the NearPod lesson, please don't worry about it. It wasn't homework. I didn't tell you you had to. But this is why I'm going over this. Because some of you didn't get a chance to finish it. And I want to make sure you understand how we can manipulate equations. Some of you also didn't get this right, that it finished the NearPod lesson. And that's why I'm going over this. So you may or may not remember that if I needed to find the area of a triangle, there's a formula for it. So that means if I have a triangle and I want to find the area is the space inside, that basically I would use this formula. area equals 1/2 the base times the height. Where the B is the base, H is the height. Okay, right here, this would be the height. How high is it? This is the H. This is the B. And basically, we want to solve for B right here. That's what I want to do. I want to solve for B. I also am given something in this problem. I am told I have no idea what the base is, but I was given the height of the triangle. The height of the triangle was equal to 6. 6 what? I have no idea. It wasn't given to me. Just 6. So basically now I have a formula. Area is equal to 1/2 base times the height. And I was given that 6 is the H. So I'm going to substitute in the 6 for the H, and I'm going to rewrite my formula. I'm going to change colors again, and I'm going to go the area is equal to 1/2 the base times 6. And remember, it's asking me to solve for B. So I am going to circle the B right here. Because remember, that's what I need to get all by itself. So now before I go any farther, I could actually do something with this formula. I can take 1/2 of 6. Because remember, those are both numbers. 1/2 is a number and 6 is a number. And I could ask anybody in this room, what is half of 6? In other words, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I can take 1/2 of 6 and say the area of my triangle is 3 times B. So now, again, remember, I need to get B all by itself. So remember, when I have a letter and a number next to each other, it means I am multiplying. And as I told you, how do you undo multiplication? You undo multiplication by dividing. So that means I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So look what I do. I'm going to go area is equal to 3B. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Divide both sides. Remember, I got to divide everything by 3. Therefore, and notice this time my variable is on the right-hand side. Totally okay. B is equal to A divided by 3. And I know a lot of you don't like the variables on the right-hand side, so I can actually rewrite this. I can rewrite this to be B is equal to the area divided by 3. And there it is right there. Did I solve for B? Yes. Is B all by itself on one side of the equation? Yes. And what do I do in order to get B? I'm going to take the area of my triangle when I know it. I have no idea what it is right now. And I'm going to divide it by 3. That's it. That's what I'm going to do. I solved for B. I got B all by itself. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute to jot that down. And again, remember, I am recording this. You can see the timer up there. So if you don't get everything down, I will post this in Canvas on our lesson links. Okay, so now here's another formula. I don't think many people remember this. This is one of those ones where you have to memorize them, right? They always make you memorize formulas. So basically, this is the formula for a circumference of a circle. And don't worry about not knowing what this is. You'll see this. You'll see it again in geometry. This is the circumference of a circle. And the circumference is the outside. So if I have a circle, it's the distance around a circle. So what I need to do is, it says I got to solve for r. So I'm going to right now underline the r. And I'm going to remember that that means that r has to stand all by itself. So remember, when I have numbers and letters, that happens to say c is equal to 2 pi r. This is pi. Notice I didn't use 3.14. Pi, we're going to use pi, just the way that it is labeled. So I'm going to rewrite my equation. C is equal to 2 pi r. And remember, I need to get r by itself. So when I have 2 and pi and r, remember they're all together. I don't see a subtraction sign in front of them. I don't see an addition sign. That means I'm multiplying. So if I'm multiplying, in order for me to undo multiplication, it means I'm going to divide. And I am going to divide the whole right-hand side by 2 pi, because I can do that. And that means if I divide the right side by 2 pi, I have to divide the left side by 2 pi. 2 pi divided by 2 pi is 1. It's like this, ladies and gentlemen. If I have AB and I divide it by AB, this is equal to 1. Just like if I say 3 over 3, this is equal to 1. X over X is equal to 1. Any time I have two things over itself, it's 1. So 2 pi divided by 2 pi is 1r. So that's on my right-hand side. And what do I have on the left? I simply have c divided by 2 pi. And I know a lot of times we don't like it like this. We'd rather have the variable by itself on the left. So just rewrite it. R is equal to c over 2 pi. Just like that. I didn't change the value. I didn't change the order. All I did was flipped it around. That's it. Nothing else changed. And I found the value of r. Okay? Next one. 3x. I believe this was towards the end. This could have even been an exit ticket. Not 100% sure. You got 3x plus 5y is equal to 500. Solve for x. I'm going to give you a minute. Notice I've got my timer. I want to see how far you can get doing it on your own, and then I'll go over it. So at 25 minutes, I'll go over it. All right, so if I needed to solve for x, the very first thing I need to do is move this 5y over. Because I'm adding 5y, I'm going to subtract 5y from both sides. So when I subtract 5y from both sides, 5y, take 5y away, gives me 0, which leaves me on the left-hand side with 3x equal to 500 minus 5y. Remember, the whole idea is to get x all by itself. Therefore, when I have 3 and x together, it means that I am multiplying. So in order for me to undo multiplication, I'm going to divide every single thing on the right and the left by 3. Divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. Remember, that fraction bar means to divide. I am dividing everything by 3. That's what I'm doing. 3 divided by 3 gives me 1x. And if I took a calculator and divided 500 divided by 3, I got, it says 166.66666666. So I'm basically going to be super duper lazy, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to leave it as 500 over 3 because I don't want to write all those decimals, minus 5 over 3y, just like that. This is completely acceptable. Completely acceptable. If you would have written this, x is equal to 166.66667, totally fine, minus 5 over 3y, totally fine. I would have taken that too. So I like fractions just as fractions without decimals. It's something I always try to tell my students to get used to. Last one, that's it. Nothing more. So I am going to stop my recording.